Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Shifts and Pucks Newspack for Wednesday, July 27th. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. As a little bit later, for two reasons. It is hot where I am. It's probably hot where you are too. And I spent 4 hours watching the hearings today with Hockey Canada, and I needed some fresh air and was dealing with other stuff. And I needed to also just absorb the information that we got from Hockey Canada today. So that's, of course, where we're going to start. So apologies for the late one. Hope you're keeping hydrated, though. Keep cool, all of that sort of stuff. I know it is really hot where I am, probably hot where you are too, as most of us are dealing with a heat wave, so hope you're staying safe wherever you are. As of this recording, and it's about almost 6 o'clock my time, 32 degrees here in the fine city of Burnaby, British Columbia. But we'll start with Hockey Canada, and it was the second day of the hearings. Of course, yesterday they spent time with Sport Canada. They spent time with Pascal St. Onge, and the Daniel Robitaille, lawyer from Heinen, Hutchinson. Today was Hockey Canada's Scott Smith, and as well as CHO commissioners, OHL Commissioner David Branch, Rod Robinson was there as well as the QMJHL Commissioner was there, and Gilles Courteau and Dan McKenzie from the CHL were there as well. And so that was 3 hours of this. And then they brought in Bruce Zelensky as well. And he was there for the fourth hour. But he, yeah, he was there too. And it was a pretty interesting. It was a pretty interesting day overall. Really, I think the momentum of these meetings were cut on basically two things around Scott Smith. Of course, the what I think of the MPs characterized as someone who didn't take the hearings on June 20th seriously, um, was uh, uh, categorized as a person with a different tone. I think that was the first thing. And I think the big other thing coming into this, of course, was Sheldon Kennedy's tweet after the hearings yesterday, calling for the resignation of Scott Smith, as well as the board of directors, and a cleanup of leadership. And the two big thing, there's a number of things to unpack here to absorb, but all of the MPs agreed that were on the committee agreed that there needed to be a call for a change of leadership. All called for Scott Smith to resign. Heidi Fry ended the hearings with Hockey Canada and CHL specifically, dealing with the fact that there was a lack of diversity on the committee, and something that needs to be rectified. Um, and of course, Smith said he will not resign. He 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 uh, he just simply, he said he was pretty insistent that that was a pretty big question that came through, and he was insistent that he feels his 30 years of experience gives him the ability to continue to lead Hockey Canada, despite the questions. I mean, he talked a lot about the action plan that was implemented and introduced just really before these hearings. So he, yeah, every single one of them. And of course, the big question he was also dealing with was approving a settlement of $3.55 million lawsuit. And the course, the questions about the role that Hockey Canada played in agreeing to settle the lawsuit, historical data on how many other claims have been settled by Hockey Canada, um, and as well, those were two big things. As well, $7.6 million in sexual abuse settlements have been from the emergency fund, or the the fund that has become called into question here since 1989. Um, and and of course, this is from membership fees. Ian Mendez tweeted out in regards to the funding today. Ian Mendez was talked about this. He was heavy on this. Rick Westhead was heavy on this. Ken Campbell was on this. He had a lot to say on this as well today. But Ian Mendez, he tweeted this here. He just will just as I scroll down here. The other thing that Smith did say, he was asked after if the World Juniors would go on. This is an IIHF event, not a hockey event, but they do plan on delivering that event. The sexual assault center from London. I'm going to just read this from Ian Mendez. Couple of interesting notes from HC President Steve Smith, who took a few questions from media on his way out. He said the latest sexual assault settlement from London is not part of the $7.6 billion they cited from settlements involving the National Equity Fund. So the latest settlement involving the victim from London, Ontario in 2018 would be added to that element. Another thing that Mendez tweeted out, Hockey Canada is asked how they allocate funds for women's program versus men. This is how they say spending has gone over the last 4 years. Women hockey, 20.3 million. Men's hockey, 17.8 million. Para hockey, 4.2 million. I think one of the highlights was when Liberal MP Anthony Housefather questioned Scott Smith about the fact that they didn't know the identities or consult with the 8 identified players before they settled. Smith's response was, "We made the decision to settle in the best interest of the young woman and respect her privacy. We didn't want to subject her to more discussion as we've seen in the media. We wanted to make sure we were looking after her on a go-forward basis. We stand by the basis to settle with her." And so that was a pretty intense, probably one of the more intense conversations. Housefather also questioned the use of minutes that were not being recorded in some of the meetings, on camera meetings as well. That was probably the most intense part of this. And just some other highlights here. The CHL edited, so just go through this. Claire Palmer tweeted this out. The question about hazing came up as well. OHL's David Branch says that hazing is a thing of the past, and then speaks on a potential hazing incident and verbal harassment from just this past season. And guest, and just to continue the tweet, guest said that there's a misconception that hazing doesn't happen more in junior hockey, but the 20-year-old said it was part. She points to an article about a hazing incident in the OHL from this year. Dan Cursillo, a plaintiff in an abuse lawsuit filed, this is from Rick Westhead, filed from the Canadian Hockey League, take issues with testimony of league officials. So there's the other thing was about hazing and abuse that has been going on. I believe that there's a culture of hazing and abuse. I believe that there is and has been a system-wide knowledge of this culture. And But yeah, the other person that was there was Barry Lorenzetti. Quite frankly, there was a lot of questions he could not answer, Barry Lorenzetti, because of confidentiality, and um, they don't really they would be they don't he does not with AIG, and he said it would be more valuable to speak to people with AIG who holds Hockey Canada's insurance policy. MP James Maloney, Liberal MP James Maloney, Hockey Canada insurance broker, to Lorenzetti, I'm not sure why you're here, which was basically that. And as far as anything else, an additional 12 cases, this is from Ian Kennedy, additional 12 cases settled through interest, in addition to the 9 cases settled through the equity of fund related to the sexual assault. But right now, that number at this point is at 7.6, not counting the 2018 suit. And the other thing Lorenzetti said, and chief financial officer, Byron Cairo, was there as well. 6.8 million of the settlements were related to Graham James. Of course, he was convicted for sexually assaulting a younger hockey player. One of the conversations that Lorenzetti got into was that fund, and he said it was prudent for that fund to happen, and that was interesting to me to hear that part of it. I think the question really, there's a lot of things to unpack, and I'm not the expert at it, but just to read, I'll read what was tweeted here from Rick Westhead, and then one other thing. It was prudent for Hockey Canada to maintain a national equity fund to pay claims related to alleged sexual assault. Without the fund, Hockey Canada might have to raise player registration fees to cover settlements related to abuse. And Peter Julian did ask Lorenzetti whether Hockey Canada would be responsible for covering potential losses faced by the CHL in connection with the hazing abuse lawsuit the league is now fighting, and they will be. BFL Canada, which is where Lorenzetti is with, is an insurance broker and helps Hockey Canada find coverage with companies including AIG. So the other thing, Katie Strang tweeted this out as well. Here are the 11 recommendations from Heinen Hutchinson. Revise the code of conduct to include a provision to make the explicit scope of application to the code of conduct, a morality provision, specific sexual misconduct provisions, and specific serious consequences by any breach of the code of conduct. Introduce mandatory training on A, the code of conduct, B, alcohol abuse, sexual assault, advocacy, and take the following steps at similar Hockey Canada events in the future. A, increase security and supervision. B, prevent underage drinking. C, limit Hockey Canada sponsored alcohol. And D, introduce protocols for Hockey Canada staff and coaches at such event that include the enforcement of the code of conduct. And then performance bonuses, that was the other thing that was talked about today. From Katie Strang, performance bonuses as tied, because there was questions about that as well. Don't think they got true, clear answers from Scott Smith on that specifically. Don't think they were satisfied. Well, they weren't, a lot of things they weren't satisfied for. That was one of them. Performance bonuses as tied to mental objectives queried today in committee hearing have since been disclosed as well. Bonuses ranges from a maximum of $5,000 to a maximum of $55,000 across 5 different positions at Hockey Canada. So that's the other thing. There was a question they were waiting for they did not get an answer at the hearings. That came after, as the committee demanded that information before the end of the hearing, and that came out. So that is that. So that pretty much synopsis that. I would suspect Tom Rainey wasn't there, I think, due to illness. Looks like there's going to be another hearing in September. So this will continue to go on. The questions towards Hockey Canada will go on. I think will be a lot of questions, and although an IIHF event, I still think there's a perception around Hockey Canada when it comes to the World Juniors, and the public perception towards Hockey Canada right now is very low. Peter Julian talked a lot about that. Everyone talked a lot about that today. So we'll see what happens when August 9th rolls around. August 9th to 20th is the World Junior Tournament. We got the Ivan Halinka tournament, by the way, that starts on July 31st. I don't think that will be impacted as much. It's a important tournament, but it's not one that the public spends a lot of time watching. And again, the World Junior Tournament in August, I don't think is going to turn a lot of eyes, but I think as we talked about, we'll see how this is handled here in terms of public perception. So that's the Hockey Canada situation here. Jim Rutherford was on the Bob McCown podcast today, and two things that came out today as we switch here to that conversation. A couple things came out of highlights here. One topic was the Tucker Pullman's health. Still some question marks around Tucker Pullman's health. Of course, that's been one question. Rutherford thinks he can play in a top 4 role if he's healthy, but there's still some question marks. As far as JT Miller goes, quote from Rutherford on the podcast: "We would like to re-sign him if possible. We're a long way apart. I think it will be hard to get to a point where he'll have a comfort level of what we're able to do." So, long way to go. Still in an unsure decision of what to do with JT Miller. The desire is to bring him back and sign him long term. And so those are the two things. You can check out the Bob McCown podcast, but those are a couple of highlights there from that. Olli Juolevi, former Vancouver Canuck, is now with the Anaheim Ducks. He signed a 1-year, 2-way contract, $750,000 in the NHL, $175,000 minor, $200,000 guaranteed. Of course, so that is Juolevi, of course, was traded last season to the Florida Panthers, and now, of course, with the Anaheim Ducks this season, are signed to play with the Anaheim Ducks this season. So, but he is now there. Last season, the Juolevi last season played. Actually, he played with Detroit as well. 3 points, 41 career games for Juolevi. 10 games with Florida last year, 8 games with Detroit, no points. So that's where we're at with Olli Juolevi. John Klingberg has parted ways with longtime agent Peter Wallen. Of course, him and Nazem Kadri are probably the two biggest free agents out there right now. I still haven't seen a contract. He's now being represented by Newport Sports Management. So is Klingberg still looking for a deal? Nazem Kadri still looking for a deal. Those two situations have yet to be resolved as we turn into our situation and turn into the month of August. So, and Danton Heinen was signed to a 1-year contract, 1-way deal with through 2023, annual average value of $1 million. Of course, Heinen. I think a lot of people looked at that as a really good deal for the Pittsburgh Penguins, bringing in a gritty guy here. He's from Langley. He played last season with last season with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So he's returning 18 goals, 15 assists, 33 points in 76 games with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And of course, finally, Bobby Ryan is in the news. It's of course not good news here. He was arrested for public intoxication, and this is according to ScoopNational.com. Caught several items from a store inside the airport without paying for them. He was eventually found in Sydney Airport while purportedly waiting for a drink he had just ordered and abandoned the stolen items on an airport counter. Bobby Ryan did tweet today a few things. Just read that here from his Twitter. Ryan has had he's battling with alcoholism, and it's I bring compassion, hope for the best to him. He's I've had somebody just basically will start here. He tweeted a couple of things this today. Every now and again, you remind exactly why social media exists, and today is such a good reason. He's had so many. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I hate that I'm here, but it's where I am, and I'll own that. I've had so many incredible messages today. Thank you for all of them. Today is day one again. Mostly embarrassed, but I shouldn't be. Today I'm waking up and choosing better, and uh, and yeah. So Haley Salvian on her Twitter, by the way, has written a story about Bobby Ryan's battle that he's gone through from his own words. So I would recommend reading that as well. But that is the news for today. Of course, you can follow us all individually on Twitter. Tyler TNOBLE, Devin Gordhow09, Sean is Beardy Canuck 03, Christian Schneids SCHNEIDZ. I am KEVOLE, Shifts and Pucks, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. As we continue to be hot, it actually went up 1 degree now. It's now 33 degrees as we end this. Hope you're doing well. Keep hydrated, keep cool, stay safe. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.